Lake Champlain is a very important tourist attraction in Vermont, but if the lake becomes overrun with toxic algae, less people will want to come, the natural beauty will fade, and your dog could die. Rest in peace, Buttercup. Nutrients, like phosphorus, are a natural part of the ecosystem. They support the growth of aquatic plants. In small amounts, they are beneficial to many ecosystems. However, in excessive amounts, nutrients cause a type of pollution called eutrophication. Eutrophication stimulates an explosive growth of algae called algal blooms that deplete the water of oxygen. And whether you live near a body of water, like a lake or an ocean, or not, this is something that will affect you. How? Those toxins they release don't only kill the organisms in the lake, but can also make humans sick, reduce property values, close your beaches, and raise the water treatment costs.
The increase of cyanobacteria and toxic algal blooms along recreational beaches has been a growing concern after pets have died and people have gotten sick. Recently, a new method was developed for marine harmful algal bloom, HABs, mitigation using local beach sand or silica sand modified with chitosan and polyaluminum chloride. With the implementation of these modified beach sands, the level of cyanobacteria and HABs can be greatly reduced. Another major yet simple way to help prevent and minimize these HABs is to be mindful. By following simple precautions like having your septic system checked routinely and abstaining from the use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, if all homes did these things, there would be an extreme drop in the levels of excess phosphorus found in water runoff into lakes and ponds. The data from this table reflects a new experimental test used to remove HABs from freshwater lakes using coagulation magnetic separation. The data shows how this method removed 100% of the chlorophyll A, reduced turbidity by 99.6%, and removed 94% of the total phosphorus. The magnetic coagulation separation method can rapidly and effectively remove algae from water bodies and greatly mitigate the eutrophication of fresh water. The method has good performance, is low cost, and can turn waste into something valuable.
Legislation from the EPA and Champlain Basin programs have been integral in improving the amount of phosphorus input into Lake Champlain throughout the Clean Water Act and cleanup education efforts. Here you can see, as legislation was passed, phosphorus discharge load decreased. For example, the phosphorus detergent law was put in place, which led to the decrease of 100 metric tons of phosphorus being input into Lake Champlain via wastewater. Although there is legislation put in place for urban and rural areas alike, there is often conflict over which area is more to blame. Quantity versus quality is the basis for this debate, since farms produce large quantities of phosphorus due to fertilizers and manure, while cities produce phosphorus that are in a ready-to-use form for algae. Overall, there is a resistance to policy since it restricts farmers and city dwellers alike, which is why it is important for programs that promote and educate communities on reducing their contribution to phosphorus.
The Winooski River watershed is the largest distributor of phosphorus into the lake. The watershed can be divided into 20 smaller sheds. When the smaller sheds were evaluated, it was evident that the land area around them was commonly used as urban development land and agriculture land, which happened to be two major contributors to phosphorus. In a study conducted in 2004, it was shown that of the phytoplankton in Missisquoi Bay, 73 to 89% of them were toxic cyanobacteria. Blue-green algae produce toxins into the water that can make people sick and can kill dogs. Looking at the data shown by this infographic, there is a large amount of beaches closed for multiple days over the course of this survey. Some get closed for upwards of 20 days due to cyanobacteria outbreaks.
In a 2016 study, local business owners were asked whether or not they would vote for a 1% increase in the property tax for the lake cleanup. Although hesitant at first, it is likely that many local business owners around Lake Champlain won't mind the tax increase because they realize that tourism may increase if the lake water quality increases as well.
The presence of the invasive zebra mussels adds to a positive feedback loop in Lake Champlain. Zebra mussels consume everything they can filter, but they don't eat cyanobacteria, which contributes greatly to algal blooms. But as these mussels thin out the bacteria's competition, they grow more freely without the restrictions of competition.
This graph compares the amount of time the water is contaminated and how it affects the wildlife from the amount of time it's clean and has no effect. If the levels continue at the same rate, the levels of the three bars will continue to grow and will steadily decrease the one.
The information that is in the graph above was collected over various periods of time within and around the Shelburne Bay. This shows a spike in the later months of the summer. This data could show higher levels of high-risk conditions if the level of phosphorus in the water continues to increase.
This is an area of high contamination, and as a result, blue-green algae have affected the water, causing it to be unsafe for residents around the lake, people within the lake, and finally the ecosystem in the lake.